In today's Rise of Kingdoms, it's no secret that fights are lasting longer than they ever have before. This is due to a variety of reasons, but just in general, it is very, very important to be able to increase the longevity of your fighting ability as a kingdom and as a player. And one of the ways that you can do that is by having filler farm accounts. I have a guide, actually that is my most popular video on YouTube, about how to construct the perfect farm account. This is a update to that guide to transition those farm accounts to filler accounts. It is unbelievably important to use the troops on your farms so that your kingdom can continue to fight in KvK and that you have troops left to fill rallies, swarm down structures on these day 2 and day 3s of Kingsland. It is so important that I got 20 million T4 farm deads on my farms last KvK, and don't just take my word for it, take Apo's word for it.
Majority of the time they were defending. Their farms and ults were working harder than their mains. And look at these numbers.
So what he just said right there, when we're defending, that we're actually using our T4 farms instead of our main, that's very true. Guys, I am a garrison player. Part of the reason why I actually love to farm fill so much is that filling my own garrison and getting those crazy positive reports is actually pretty fun. You know, it's not quite as fun as open fielding and getting that 2000% report on your QSH, which is just the most busted commander of the game. But in general, my main just sits offline. Like, not offline, I'm here, but I just throw it into a garrison and then I log on. I got 3 devices. I got my phone, I got BlueStacks, I got my computer, and I just farm fill as much as I possibly can. So let's finish this up.
Gulp smacked one Asina. 1981, micromanaging their goddamn farms and alts as best as it can be. This is one of the best I've seen in a long time. This is Kingdom 1981 dead, guys.
Shout out to us.
How much farms and alts being used. This is incredible. And it brings...
Yeah, so it just, in general, I'm not going to play the entire clip. In the end, he just kind of says, brings awareness to people not being able to use their farms as much and maybe neglecting some of their farms. But I'm telling you guys, it is more important than ever to use your farms. So why don't we actually hop in the game and I will show you how to construct these farms to best fill. Now, we're going to go over a few things because, believe it or not, this is not as simple as just having a low-powered farm that you can dump a few troops in there, right? There are good examples and bad examples that I will go over from my own accounts, right? Like, I have 2 farms, realistically, that are just too large these days. One that is way too large, and I'm actually in the process of putting to sleep. What I mean by that is, if it's offline for 30 days, it essentially, you know, just disappears off the map. I'll probably do that in maybe 1 or 2 KvKs once I've truly used up all the speeds and all of the troops. But so good examples, bad examples. We're going to go over what buildings you should construct and what research you should have. Additionally, commander investments is surprisingly relevant, guys. If you are filling with the wrong commanders, you actually are going to get demolished walking into these rallies and garrisons because your commanders and troops are just going to be way too slow. So commander investment is really, really important. And then lastly is your day-to-day activity, what you should be doing on a filler, how you should be treating it, what alliance it should be in, things of that nature. So let's hop into it. All right, so the first thing we're going to go over is a bad example. You can see I've got this medium cane down here. It is sitting at 46 million power. This is generally really, really high, and I'm going to go over my incorrect steps and my mistakes that I made on this account. And then we're also going to go over arguably my best constructed filler up until this point, which is tiny and miniature cane. Itty Bitty Cane, we're getting there. It's still a work in progress. I am going to follow my own guide to make sure that Itty Bitty Cane gets to that point of being able to be a good filler, but realistically, I just haven't played it enough and haven't put enough time in yet. So why don't we log on to Medium Cane and I'll show you what I'm talking about an example of a bad filler account. Now, it is not that I can't use this account. It's not that I didn't use this account. In fact, I used this account a whole lot last KvK. If we look at the stats, last KvK, I actually got 5.3 million kills on my farm, ironically, and 3.8 million deads on this account. Now, I also had to heal 5 million troops, which is expensive, which goes into the activities and the things that you need to be doing on these accounts to honestly be able to heal and actually play them. But if we go in here, you can see that my non-troop power is extremely high. So I have 16.5 million building power and I have 14.3 million tech power, and then my commander power is at 2.2 million. This adds up to something like 33 million non-troop power, and even though I do have 13 million power in troops, it's still just too high. The amount of troops that I have, excuse me, and that I'm able to kill every KVK is pretty astonishing, and I will train on this again for next KVK, but realistically, in an age where 1981 is going to be flirting with the Silver Imperium line, I need to just get this out of our kingdom and just make space for other people who have better constructed farms. So if we go in here and actually look at my research, you can see where I made my mistake. Now, this is pretty simple. I also use these farms to farm, obviously, and so my tech in the economic tech tree is actually finished. Now, I obviously did not need to get gem gathering. I will never gather gems on my farms. This is a waste of nearly 356,000 power, just completely pointless that I got this. Also, if we look at my tech tree for war, I have all of this stuff maxed. This is 1.2 million power, 1.8 million power times 3. I also have all of this stuff over here, and it's just unnecessary power that I do not need. I will show you what the correct talent tree looks like on my other accounts, but I used this account in my history to actually rally bar forts while there was space in 1981 for me to have it. But now, again, it is relegated to the second alliance to where it's really not generating a lot of speeds. And so this is just an example of a bad farm. Now, if we go in and look at my speeds and resources, you can actually see this farm generates a lot, right? It is a properly constructed farm. I've gone ahead and made the gear, made all that stuff, all the gathering gear, and I have a ton of resources. This farm was zeroed at the end of last KVK. And now I did also buy the auto barb, the gem supply. For those of you who don't know, you can actually go and click this now if you have the gem supply and you run auto barb. You can see I have 8,000 AP open. This is something that I was like, hey, I had over 1 million action points on this farm because it's been sitting in the main alliance so much. Why don't I just buy the $5 gem supply for, you know, whatever it's worth and get over 100 days of speed ups and probably over 1 billion resources each. It's been very, very worth it for me. But with that said, why don't we go in and actually look at a properly constructed farm? And the farm that we're going to use for this, as far as the buildings and technology go, is going to be Itty Bitty Cane. It is my most recent project and the most correct project to date. Now, again, I think I mentioned this in the intro, but this farm is not completed. It was not used to fill last KVK, and honestly, I just don't have the time investment and the commander investments yet to really be able to fill on this. But as for a guide for buildings and technology, this is what you should run. So you want your hospitals to level 24. That might be high for a lot of you guys, but if you guys are in the field and fielding, you will know that your hospitals get full on your farms from getting hit on the way into structures. Now, again, commander investments can help with that, but you do actually want each one of your hospitals to be 24 so that you actually have a cap of about 312,000 troops. Now, the other buildings, I do all of my production buildings to level 25. You might not need that if you don't log onto them very often. I choose to do it because I log into my farms probably 4 or 5 times a day, and these generate quite a lot of resources. The other thing that I upgrade is all of my buildings to level 25 that are training buildings, except for obviously the siege workshop, because you don't need to. So again, you're going to run archer range level 25, barracks level 25, and stable level 25. This is so that you can train more troops in the long run. You do not need your siege workshop to be level 25. This can stay level 24. Everything else should be about the lowest level that you can get away with in order to maximize your other buildings. So you can see my storehouse is level 22, Alliance Center is 24, which is fine. Everything else is just pretty much at the base level. Castle is level 1. I'm not rallying on this account, so no reason for me to upgrade this. Now, as far as the tech goes, you can see in the economic technology, I went full econ tree and I did not get the gem gathering because obviously I'm not gathering gems on this small account. As far as the war tree, you can see this is done to almost perfection. I got the absolute minimum that I needed to continue my way through the tree. I got tracking 4 out of 5. I got these leather armors, bucklers, scale armors to 3 out of 5, camouflage 1 out of 5, defensive formation 1 out of 5, herbal medicine 1 out of 5, cartography 3 out of 5, and then I went here and I got long swordsman, the archer, can't really pronounce that, and then the knight with no ballista unlocked. So I did get 1 extra skill in this. I'm not sure why this is 2 out of 10. I must have just misclicked that, but you can see the buildings and the technology for this farm are done, and this is perfect. This is exactly what you want. And when you go down here and you look at the power, you're looking at 14.6 building power, 4.4 technology power. This is a under 20 million non-true power farm, and this is done to perfection. Now, like I said, I don't have very many troops on this account. This is not something that I will use to fill yet, but you can see it is now sitting in the main alliance. I'm going to be generating a lot of speed ups by being in here. And additionally, I will have this done later on. So now that we've gone over the buildings and the tech, why don't we go into the commanders and the investments about what you should be doing there. And I will show you a properly constructed farm so that we can hop into that, because Itty Bitty Cane is not quite done yet. And here we are on Miniature Cane. This is probably my largest farm and most set up farm. Now, the power and the building power is a little bit too high, but it's not so high to the point where I would say this is a poorly constructed filler. It's about 21 million non-true power, so it's fine. Again, I think it's well enough constructed, and you can see the amount of troops that I have on this thing is ludicrous. It's 2.4 million currently after getting out of KVK. Last KVK, I got 5.4 million deads, and I actually killed 6 million troops. So this farm was putting in the work. Now, as far as commander investments, I told you guys it's very important that you pick the correct commanders. You can see here that there's going to be a pattern with my level 60 commanders. You want all of your commanders to have either the mobility tree or the support tree. And why is this? Because this is the most important talent that you could ever get. Hasty departure. Whenever you are leaving a building, you get 60% march speed for 10 seconds. Now, why is this important? Well, a lot of the times when you are filling structures, you are going from building to building to building. You are city hopping your way there. Also, when you are just going into a flag, you're usually going from a city directly into the flag. If you do not have hasty departure, I promise you, your farm will get melted by the AoE before you actually get into the flag. Now, I'm going to go ahead and recall one of these marches. Hopefully, this is not too far away. I might skip 4 minutes and 20 seconds ahead so that we can actually go into the marches that I use. But as far as investments go, right? Double C is a no-brainer. Belisarius is a no-brainer. And then from there, you kind of figure out what you have. A lot of people have Ethelfled, another no-brainer, right? So that's 3 of your 5 right there that you can get for literally no investment at all. Now, I fill a lot with infantry, so you can see I actually got Pericles. A super strange, right? You're like filling with Pericles, what? Right? But it's got the support tree and it's infantry, so you get a lot of march speed here in the infantry, and you can go ahead and fill flags really easy with that. And then the last one that's very, very simple is actually the Lohar, right? Again, support tree primary, and you just run it in. And another thing that you'll notice as my march returns home, so I can show you the presets, is all of these should be running staggered formation. The staggered formation makes it so that you get 15% more march speed when you're marching to join a rallied army or garrison. That might seem like nothing and compared to the 60% that you get from hasty departure, but every little bit counts, especially when you're missing a lot of the technology and crystal tech for the march speed. Now, I could be a little bit better here. You see, I've got these, armaments that I could probably put on here. Maybe some have some march speed. Again, I don't mess too much with this stuff because the benefit you get is honestly so small. And look, I don't even have any march speed here. So what is the most important thing is that you have staggered formation equipped. And you can see I'm going to have staggered formation on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of all of my fillers and all of my primaries. So let's skip ahead in the video so where I can show you the presets that I use. Oddly enough, one thing that I failed to mention as well is you can craft something called the Windswept set. Now, you see that I do not have that on all of my mains, all of my primaries, partly because I've invested a lot of my materials into basically one set that I have on my farm so that I can rally barb forts, and that'll go a little bit later on in the video. I'll explain that, but essentially I am active on these. I'm constantly rallying barb forts. That and I use universal materials to craft this set because I do actually need resources from these farms as well. So, you know, you could craft a windswept set. You would get a little bit more march speed. But again, in my experience, it's like not mandatory when you're running into these buildings with 75% march speed. Anyway, now let's go ahead and look at my presets. You're going to see a pattern here. Again, I mentioned to you all of the primaries: Ethelfled, Belisarius, Double C, Pericles, and Lohar. All are support tree or mobility tree. The secondaries of these is also important. Matilda, oh man, I forget what that one is. I forget her name. Then we've got Tamar, Sarka, and Caesar. Now, what do those all have in common? Well, guess what? You did guess it. It's troop capacity. Every single one of these has something like 5 to 15% extra unit cap. That is just more troops that you can throw into the garrison at a whim. You could have, you know, normal secondaries, but you're going to be missing out on like 15 to 20,000 troops every single time you fill the garrison. Now that we've gone over the research that you should have, the buildings that you should have, the gear and the armaments and the formations, commanders, everything that you should have, why don't we talk about the daily activities that you should have on your filler and honestly where they should be in your alliance. Now, a lot of alliances in the game do not have over 100 players. And generally, you want your fillers to be in the main alliance. You can see in my battle log here, I do a ton of Barbarian Force. Now, obviously, I've been, recording this video, so I haven't done it in the last 2 hours, but I spend all of my action points every single day on rallying Barb Force. You generate a ton of speed ups this way, and you help out your alliance. You're not just doing it for yourself, you're helping the whole alliance. So you can see you get a ton of speed ups every single day just by doing this. And you need to make sure that on your filler, you are using these speed ups. Now, a lot of people will just have their main farm in the main alliance and then they don't use their speed ups. No, you cannot do that. You have to use the speed ups. So you can see I'm at 402 days. I recommend every single pre-KVK you train this amount down to anywhere between 50 and 100 days. Now, you need a little bit of speed ups for healing, and that is why I mentioned that. But another thing that you can do is alliance mobilization. Now, you're going to go ahead and see all my farms up here at the top rank. I train every single alliance mobilization. 2,400 points, 2,400 points, 2,400 points, 2,400 points, 2,400 points. And then my last one, I think, is down here a little bit. Maybe I already missed it. Yeah, here it is, 2,300 points. So I trained on literally 6 farm accounts for this alliance mobilization. It's obviously going to help us get maybe rank 1, 1486 doing a great job here, but maybe rank 1 alliance mobilization, and we go from there. So you're spending your AP, you're training for pre-KVK and for alliance mobilization, and then in general, you're setting out your gatherers every single day, and you're being generally active. Your non-filler accounts or filler accounts that are going, maybe to sleep should be in basically other shells and other alliances. Now, 1981, again, I mentioned this, but we are growing larger and larger. Obviously, I want to have fillers who are still in the main alliance, but realistically, we're going to be about 120 or 130 mains after this migration, and I can't be selfish, and I can't have all 6 of my filler accounts in the main alliance. That's just not fair to everybody. So I will probably limit myself down to 1 or maybe 2, depending on what the alliance allows, and then rotate in farms so that they generally gain speeds. Or what I could do is I rotate them based on KVKs. So I could have some accounts participating in the KVK get selected in the domain system, and then I could have some that were sitting in the main alliance or that do have speed ups actually participate in the KVK, and I can just rotate farms based on the KVK that I'm playing. Now, obviously, everything that I've mentioned here takes time. It takes effort. And yes, that is what it's going to take for you to have a strong filler account. And quite honestly, especially if you're not spending money, I know I did spend the, whatever it was, $5 for the gem supply so that I could run my action points and generate some speed ups. But if you're not spending money or a ton of time on your fillers, it will take you about a year to get one set up properly. I know that sounds ludicrous, and it is, but Itty Bitty Kane, for example, the ID is 169, 9-digit. I've had this thing for about a year and it's still not finished yet. Now, again, I've neglected my farm accounts. I've not logged in for weeks on them. They're farm accounts. We've all had this problem. So they do take time and effort, but once you get there, Oh, it is so, so sweet. So anyway, guys, that kind of wraps it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed the guide. I did get 20 million farm deads this last KVK, and I hope to improve on that for this next KVK. So I hope you tune in to watch it. Now, I don't know if I'll be streaming my farms filling, but I will be streaming my main fighting. So hope to see you guys there. I'll see you guys around in the next one. Peace.